They're there, Tom. I just feel like they're keeping their heads sort of in the sand right now. But I mean, look, the New Democrats, the coalition on Capitol Hill, are sort of this generation of blue dogs. And, admittedly, they are more liberal than the blue dogs that we used to know. But they're still there. And I think that there is this sort of division within the Democratic Party right now, sort of a statement of the obvious that what wins elections? Is it going to be this more sort of centrist Democrat, this kind of center-left Democrat, or a progressive left? And I think that is playing out. But the New Democrats are still there, albeit more liberal than the traditional.
I'm going to get one more question because Paul's got like 13 more intelligent than me. That's great, but it's not about winning election. It's about not losing it. So the Democrats, you look at the mix, particularly, the Cornyn and Paxton thing and all that. It feels like they're almost trying to lose a given election. Are they losing it or are they winning it?
Well, look, I think that, like the Republicans, I think the Democrats have had mixed success in terms of who they're running this cycle. You could say that Graham Plattner in Maine is actually a candidate that does seem like he kind of understands the zeitgeist of the voters in Maine. I wouldn't characterize him as a blue dog Democrat, but he is is more connected to the sort of working class values, traditional working class values of the Democratic Party. James Tellerico, he sounds good, right? He's a very articulate guy, love him or not like him or what have you. But he's quite progressive. And so I think to your point, is he too progressive to win Texas? I would argue probably yes. Even, notwithstanding some of the controversies that are surrounding now the Republican nominee for Senate in Texas, Paxton. Yeah.
So, what is it? President Trump did endorse Ken Paxton, who won the runoff in Texas. That suggests to a lot of people that President Trump's grip on the Republican Party remains very strong. How do you view that?
Yeah, so I think that, for one, this narrative around the fracture within the MAGA base was really overstated. Yes, okay. You had the Tucker Carlsons of the world who have been very obviously vociferously opposed to the Iranian war. But for the most part, folks are sticking with the president within his base. However, as you know, the base is not what the general electorate is going to be. So absolutely, does he have an I would argue, unequivocal grip on the MAGA folks? Yes. Does that translate, though, into victories in the general election? I think that remains an open question. Look, I think the bottom line is you have a generic ballot, which is in favor for Democrats by about 7 points. You have an enthusiasm gap of around 15 points in favor of Democrats. And then the president's approval rating is kind of sub 40%. That means that the political environment should be favorable for Democrats going into November. In the House in particular, I do think the Senate, though, is sort of a different ball of wax. And I think the Senate map continues to be really difficult for Democrats, even if this political environment is arguably more favorable for them.
So does that redistricting that we saw several months ago, does that materially change the Senate map, for example?
The Senate map, no. The House map, yes. Okay. However, there have been a couple of, verdicts from the courts recently in South Carolina and also, importantly, in Alabama that sort of suggest that they're not going to do the redistricting. Right. Okay. And as a result, so Florida is going into the favor of Republicans, but California kind of negates that. And then you also have Texas. So net, the redistricting is in favor of Republicans.
Right.
But again, not to the extent that they would need it to be in order to, I think, keep the House, given the political environment.
One night in the old post office, I stood above John Kerry and Ted Kennedy. All of the zeitgeist of Washington was totally shocked at the performance of John Kerry in the election. This is a few years ago, to say the least. Okay, let's bring it forward to today. Terry Haynes, who's saying, look, here's the math he sees, and he leans a little bit more towards Republican surprise and durability. Is there like a Washington zeitgeist now, a hope and prayer in Washington about a certain angle?
In terms of how the election is going to tip? Look, I think that, again, what we're monitoring are a couple of variables that have had statistical relevance in terms of predicting midterm outcomes. The generic ballot, this engagement, this enthusiasm gap, and then the president's approval rating. Right now, as of now, all of those are pointing in the direction of a Democratic flip for the House, meaning Democrats take back the House. But the one thing, Tom, I will just caution folks, is that back in 2022, in June, May of 2022, we were all saying it's going to be a Republican wave. Because gas prices were high, President Biden's approval rating was low, generic ballot was in the, and then it wasn't, right? Republicans, yes, they took back the House, but actually Democrats won a seat in the Senate. So I think it's really important, and what we're cautioning our clients is that, like, yes, while the political environment may seem challenging for folks right now, for Republicans in particular, it can change, and as it did in 2022.